value 1.
Hi everybody, and welcome to the third episode of Command Value 1. We're recording at the Michigan Grand Tournament a couple of hours now after the Dropfleet Tournament. Don, Jordan, and I are here, but we're also joined by Patrik, Rob, Jesse, Overlord Shivak, and Rasmus. So, where do we want to start? I have a bullet point list, but I didn't share it with anybody.
Well, you shared it with me, but I'm opening it now for the very first time.
For the first time, for the last time.
For the first time.
So this is the 6th annual Michigan GT, Don. This is the 3rd year for Drop Zone?
3rd year for Drop Zone. 2nd year for the Grand Champion Dual Tournament format.
And we actually have 1st and 2nd place here. Rob narrowly won the Fleet Tournament. Patrik came in 2nd. Who got 3rd? Dave. Dave left already.
Dave Reynolds, yeah. And what I was going to say. Never mind. Keep going.
All right. Well, normally we jump into what's new, but that's a whole lot of Drop Zone units, so I think we'll save that for the end when we talk about the tournament tomorrow.
Sure.
So what I think I would like to do is just bounce into talking about the games today, and a lot of stuff with that, like Dreadnoughts, how they affected the game. So, Rob, being as you came in 1st place, you got any thoughts about the game today? What was the best game you played?
Well, I have to say, against Rasmus in round 1 was probably the funnest. And he had the Scourge Dreadnought, and I just got super lucky when that thing failed 2 repair checks and descended from orbit and crashed right in between 2 clusters and didn't do any damage to any of them.
So he had a Dreadnought. How do you feel? Are they meta changing? Are they breaking the game?
They are extremely meta changing. That was the only one I killed. Patrik in round 2, I don't even think I heard it or scratched its pain. As it just like killed you, that cruiser's dead, that cruiser's dead, that cruiser's dead, and it just owned the middle of the board.
That was my experience when I played Jordan. He just wiped me with his.
And round 3, I had to fight a Washington UCM-1, the carrier. And that one, because of the distant approach, it didn't do anything until turn 5, so that one was kind of out of the game.
That one should have been in firing position when it came on the board.
I made sure I was 2 feet. When it came on, I was 2 feet away.
So Patrik, you narrowly didn't get 1st place. You came in 2nd. You did bring a Dreadnought. So what are your thoughts on them, and what was the best game you played?
I think I enjoyed all my games. The first game was probably the most cinematic. Played against Jordan, where his Dreadnought killed my Dreadnought, which crash landed on the middle cluster. Turn after, I killed his Dreadnought, which crash landed on the same cluster, killing everything.
Poor people.
The 2nd game I played against Rob. Like I said here, I managed to win against him, but he took the overall win by having a very good last game, while I had a very tight game against Dave.
Thanks, Dave.
And I must say that it was really enjoyable to see my Dreadnought wipe out his Admiral turn 1. 2nd activation.
Well, I just want to say you both can thank me because I played Dave really tight round 1. So, Gordo, what are your thoughts? You brought a Dreadnought and you got your butt kicked multiple times. I saw you down there at the bottom table.
Yeah. I don't know if I got my butt kicked. The game with Patrik was close till it wasn't, and it was my experience.
That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
but it's not. So the Dreadnoughts are very swingy. Like the game hinges on just a couple of moments, and if just a couple of activations would have went a little differently, I think that game could have been completely different. And I had the same experience in my next couple of games.
Did you face Dreadnoughts all 3 games?
I did not.
Did you find that when you didn't face a Dreadnought that you felt your list had the advantage?
So the last game was a little weird with distant approach. I had essentially one useful activation with the Dreadnought in the 3rd game. So
We started having that conversation in passing after the tournament when you made a comment. It's like mostly Dreadnought tournament, but we put a distant approach in there. But I think that's really important that you did that because it really is one of those scenarios where the ship isn't good in every situation.
So yeah, when you're doing TOing, you really have to think about, especially now with Dreadnoughts in play, like how do you create something that not only makes it hard for people to put a list together because of the variations of scenarios, but also as far as units go as well.
So I'm going to come back to you and talk about the TOing side of everything since you didn't get to play today. But I'm going to finish the round with all the game stuff first.
Fine.
Come back to it. Hey, I can't help it that you undersold the tournament, I guess. So Rasmus, you
I did bring
betrayed the White Sphere
yeah.
and played Scourge.
Yay!
And you brought a Dreadnought as well.
and I lost it once, and I didn't face one Dreadnought all game.
Let me pause you there. You brought a Nosferatu.
Yep.
You brought a Washington.
I did.
You brought a
Cthulhu.
Cthulhu.
And it was great in all games aside from the first one, where, as Jordan said, it hinged on a few activations. In this case, 2 calls or 2 repair rolls. Had I passed those?
Were you controlling the Cthulhu, or was Cthulhu controlling you?
He answered the call.
Well, actually, Cthulhu were controlling me because once he dropped out of orbit, oh well.
Cthulhu was his co-pilot.
Yeah.
So you had your first game against Rob?
Against Rob, yeah.
And Rob, was that a big win, or did Rob squeak it out?
Pretty big win. If you look at the swing in the tournament, 13-7. Oh, what?
Yeah.
12-8. 12-8.
Who was your second game?
My second game were against Brian Farr.
Okay. And how'd you do that one?
Quite well. I managed to actually win that one and then drew the third one. And absolutely no Dreadnoughts against me, but a lot of battle cruisers.
Well, I had game 1 against David, who ended up taking third. He had Patrik round 3. I don't know who he played round 2.
Jesse.
Yeah.
Did he play Jesse?
Yes.
Did he throttle you?
Yeah.
He made me feel pretty good about myself, knowing the game that you had with him. I played him. He beat me 11-9. But it was a tight game. I mean, at no point. I think we ran out of time, so it would have come down to, well, as you said, a few dice rolls. Had they gone in my favor, I could have won that game, or at least drawn it.
Yeah, there's 2 turns during our game that Patrik thought he was going to lose, so...
Well, my round 2, I had Alex. And Alex did have a Dreadnought. He was the 13-year-old kid. Did anyone else get to play him?
No, I wish I did.
I have played him before.
He's a solid little player. I mean, he legitimately played me to a draw, and I wasn't trying to go easy on him. I'm used to beating up my kid in games. So, yeah, he's a solid little player, and I kind of hid from his Dreadnought most of the game, but I was able to skirt around all the debris fields and take out all of his launch assets. So, which is pretty much the same thing I did to Jesse in round 3. I kind of avoided contact unless it dropped something.
Yeah. Thanks.
You are welcome. If it makes you feel better, that's the only game I won. I lost, I drew, and I won.
Join the club.
Overlord Shivak, I'm glad to see you survived the horrible attack. You had quite the showing from your clan here today.
There was a lot of great Scourge players out there in the field. I didn't bring any Dreads in my list. I kind of built my list for taking on Dreads, and the only Dread that I got to fight was the Washington 3 times because I hit UCM as each opponent. So I got a lot of shots put in my face, but I managed to kill 2 out of the 3 Washingtons. And I think it's a pretty solid ship. It forces some thoughts about what you want to do with it, but in the process of killing it, I normally have to sacrifice my 2 battle cruisers to kind of do the peace trade. So
I know you had Ron round 1, and I know he had a really good time at the tournament. He didn't place very well. He placed worst place, right?
Last game.
Yeah, but we talked. He said he had a really good time. It was a really informative day for him. So He was excited about that. Who'd you have round 2?
Round 2, I had Kirill,
Okay.
and that was
You drew all 3 of your games, didn't you? You had straight draws.
Yeah, I had straight draws. Not a win, not a loss. So I guess that's good. Maybe that's bad.
You didn't lose?
I didn't lose. I never won though.
Who was your third game? Jordan was your third game.
Go
Jordan.
team average.
So all the people who are wearing the Dropfleet Kickstarter T-shirt to the event today all placed middle of the pack.
Yeah, we were Team Ohio, so go us. Jesse, what about you? What did you did not have a Dreadnought either.
I tried to build my list that I could take on a Dreadnought if possible, and be balanced to do any drop options, because I take the stance that any list should have minimum 4 drop options and some bulk landers, at least in PHR.
So, interesting thing I thought when I saw your list go on the table is you had 6 Jasons in it and an Ariadna. You're really heavy on destroyers.
Yes, and after seeing your list, I'm tempted to swap 3 of the Jasons back to Echoes,
Yeah.
and then that frees enough points up to move a Hector to a Bellerophon.
I would really up your launch. I put you at 10 launch with that list too.
Yes. Although if I do that, I'm tempted to change the Icarus to a Orion or Pegasus.
I like the Orion. I think it's a solid and underused ship. Who was your first game against? I know round 3 was me.
Dave, the best painted.
Dave Jessup.
Okay. Oh, yeah, you're Dave.
Yes.
Your minion. I did like that blue he had on his PHI. I wish I got some photos of it.
Yeah, it was a good paint job, although some modeling mistakes.
Who was your second game with?
The other Dave that faced Patrik.
Reynolds. Okay. He's a good player. Well, Don, as a TO, so you had sold this out. You had 16 players, and you ended up with 14 that showed.
Yeah, well, we technically we had 15 players. I would have had to have played, making that 16. Yeah, then the one guy didn't show up, so we ended up with 14, which is actually pretty good because running the booth and playing today would have been
That would suck.
Pretty would have sucked. Yeah.
So that ties Adepticon as far as attendance record, right?
This year, yeah. The first year at Adepticon was the best fleet showing we've had just in general in the U.S.
So we were all, at least I and a couple of us I know, were keeping track of our scores as we went, and we were finding that the scores seemed like they were really close across the board.
Yeah, so the first game especially, there was just tons of ties or close to ties. There was no pull-away winners after the first round, which is good. I mean, it makes it nice and tight. A few pull-aways going on into the second round. But at the end, I would say the spread between first and last, with the exception of Ron, who got kind of trounced by Rob at the end there, wasn't that big of a difference. I would say you guys had 38, and with the exception of Ron, I think the lowest score was like 22, somewhere around there. So yeah, it really wasn't that big of a spread between the first and last place, based on these 3 missions, experimental missions that I put out today.
Well, I'm glad you said that because I wanted to ask you about the missions you wrote up for this.
What would you like to ask me about that?
I'd like to ask you about them. You kind of just busted out these missions out of left field and said, hey everybody, we're not playing any regular classic old missions, we're going to play all 3 new experimental missions.
Yeah, so the reasoning behind it is, the biggest problem, or one of the biggest problems with Dropfleet right now is drop spam, which is just whoever brings the most stuff they can land on a sector or a station is going to end up on top. So Sheltari really kind of eased forward a little bit on that end. So I wanted to create scenarios that sort of eliminate that issue, at least minimize it anyways. And so all three of the scenarios are based on controlling more of these area above clusters and also kill points.
So the first mission we played was offensive front, and you had the planetary rings, the high-level planetary ring, the low-level planetary rings on opposite sides of the board.
Yep.
I know in my personal experience, Dave brought his 3 Scourge carriers, and he parked them behind that layer, the low orbit layer.
Yeah.
He never left because the planetary rings didn't affect fighter launch, so he literally just stayed there and sent bombers across at me, but it limited my shooting him back.
Yeah, so again, experimental, so I'll take feedback from everybody after this tournament to see.
I really enjoyed the mission. I don't know about you guys. Did any of you guys find anything?
I thought it was a great mission. It's the second time I got to play it, and it forces different decisions that you typically would not be making in Dropfleet, and so I thought it had the diversity.
I felt that one side had a slight advantage. The person who had to go under the high ring had a much easier job than the guy who had to jump over the low ring.
And that's why I thought it was interesting, because that's where Dave had the low ring, but it really benefited him.
For getting the your strike carriers underneath the low ring to get to that central cluster, that's really the only hopping hurdle you have to really consider, because what I did is I just went under the ring and I just waited an extra turn to land on that central cluster there.
Yeah, we both ended up with the mass transit system that game, so it really didn't matter for us.
Mass transit is really good in that scenario.
It is.
And also
you
you
gonna say
had the
something?
2 Dreadnoughts landing on that cluster.
That was also pretty awesome. What cluster in the center?
In round 1, my opponent Rasmus had to. He tried to go under the ring, go to atmosphere and go under, but that delayed his drop. So my strike carriers got first drop on it because I didn't get slowed down by the ring. I think an idea I'm just gonna pitch out would be on the high ring, just put 3 gun platforms behind the high ring and put 4 for the low ring, because that way there's actually might be a decision.
It was an interesting thought process I had, because I wanted to do 2 rings, so I was for sure going to go that route. But putting 2 standard planetary rings in there wouldn't solve the issue of planetary rings in general, which was just ignore them and drop into low orbit. So that's why I had the 2 different layers on there, and this was like the best way to test out that was at a tournament to see how effective that was. And I would say, even though I do agree and I knew sort of those issues going into it, I don't think it was like game breaking.
I think
the way that
everybody
those 2
said
worked.
that they really enjoyed that mission.
So it really just comes down to a little bit of tweaks.
It was really nice to have new missions, period.
So maybe like if you have low rings on both sides, then it creates a hard decision of if you want to drop that second turn, you're risking flying through the ring. And both sides have to make that same hard decision. Do I want to drop and risk blowing my ship up?
What was the second mission?
So the other part of that too was also that there was a custom kill point chart on that as well.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
So the differential in planetary rings is also to separate the just start going at each other right away effect. So if you wanted to get at the other person, you either had to take the penalty or be in one orbital layer above the other.
What was the second mission?
Second mission was.
Yeah, I don't either.
The one with the
Fantastic. I'm gonna steal it.
Yeah, you
the
go.
reactors and the
Trying to think of the name of it.
Oh yeah, the blowing up all the.
Not traffic, James.
No.
Volatile control.
Yeah, volatile control. So the thought process between volatile control was to push critical locations more heavily than any other scenario has. But to make it more fun, I had it set up so you had to at least have 1 friendly token in a cluster for you to be able to contribute tonnage to that critical location. Because otherwise, like Dreadnoughts and things like that, or bigger ships that can take and cover multiple areas, are just going to dominate that. What can you do against a strategy rating or a tonnage value of 30?
Right.
Without putting your whole fleet over there. So this sort of was like the equalizer, and that you still had to get something on the ground before it would even be a scoring option for you. And then I also put a ton of power plants, or the nuclear reactors, in there, in conjunction with
Scanning arrays.
Scanning arrays and the ground defense laser. So I took advantage of a lot of just different types of sectors in there that haven't been used a whole lot so far.
I will admit, the additional scan range for Scourge was glorious.
So it makes it fun.
I didn't get on my freaking scanner until like turn 3. Like that's the game I played Alex, and he brought his Romulus out, and he had that like turn 1. So that thing has like a 19-inch scan range. I can't hide anywhere.
Jin with a 9 for a scan range really opens up some options in the center of the table.
So then again, that's also kind of pushing the more killy type scenarios as well, giving them the extra range to be able to do that. And then the power plants was sort of the equalizer, because if somebody was sitting comfortable in their backfield where there was a power plant, they think, all right, well, I got this for sure, and he bombarded that, and then caused a chain reaction and completely eliminated that cluster. Now you've just ruined their day. They're not scoring on that. So.
Did any clusters die to bombardment other than Dreadnoughts falling on them?
I put some Medea fire on a couple of them.
Nobody
but
brought
I just didn't have
bombardment. Not a
enough
single
firepower.
bombardment ship was brought this whole tournament. Which is weird because some of the scenarios really would have benefited from it.
I
So
typically
before I
pack
came
again,
in, I was planning on bringing a little bombardment. And when I played Aaron in Drop Zone on Wednesday, he talked me out of bringing bombardment. He's like, well, looking through the mission types, he's like, I think you're wasting your time. Like, you need ships up. You need ships. You need firepower up there. You don't really need to kill anything on the ground.
And where was Aaron today?
Not here.
Right.
The space station mission may have also waved off some bombardment.
Yeah, that's true too.
I love that I make the Aaron not here and someone has to do an Arsenio Hall over there. Perfect timing. Thanks, Infinity, guys.
You get the
So what was everybody's thought on that mission then?
I didn't hate it. I will. Traffic James was my favorite.
We'll go over that one next.
Yeah.
I enjoyed the mission. It was fun. The different the sector tokens that, like you said, that weren't used before commonly. They were fun. I didn't get a chance to blow up anything though.
I got the feeling when I played that mission, it was because I had a little different beginning of it by killing his admiral first time. I'm going to mention that every time I talk. But
Because you've done that twice in your career now.
and what I got the feeling of was that you get the ships are spread out because you need to drop in several different locations, but then you also need to keep ships everywhere on the critical locations to actually get points,
Right.
which makes your fleet spread out more. So it was more almost like you had smaller battles within the battle, where you had one carrier going after some frigates in one corner while the Dreadnought was chasing some other guys on the other side. All these like minor battles on the critical locations.
Funnily enough, turned into a massive brawl in the middle. Both fleets hammering in there.
Yeah.
And then I managed to sneak a cheeky strike carrier around and actually take the space station down his back line.
That's exactly. I snuck an Ariadne around the back side of the board on an Alex, and I dropped in that back cluster, is what allowed me to pull back into a tie.
So again, I think a good change to the meta, and a few tweaks, of course, but these are all stepping stones onto putting scenarios out there that will eliminate how much drop people really consider taking over other ships.
So Traffic Jam. First off, I love missions with LSOs in them anyways, because I like breaking up the field and
Right.
forcing people to decide how the fleet's going to move. But then the fact that there's 0 clusters in it,
Yeah.
I thought was freaking awesome.
So I have to give some credit to Patrik. This was a modified version of the scenario that he sent to me. I think the biggest difference was that he had basically debris fields that would hurt you a lot more than typical, and a lot more of them. And so I thought maybe that was a little too harsh for a tournament setting. So I toned that down a little bit and change it sort of along these lines here. So for those who can't see the map,
Which we'll share this up on Command Value 1 page.
there's an LSO in the middle, and then on the 12-inch and center line, there's a station for both sides, as well as the 4-inch and 12-inch mark on the opposite corners of where you start. So unlike the other scenarios where you have stations in the corner you start, in this one you gotta get your butt across the play field to get at things you wanna.
We're gonna get the parental advisory one on this one. I have bombed right at the beginning, so we're fine.
That you want to get to, and also on opposite ends there was a station that you could blow up to get alternate scoring options. So if you didn't look like you were going to be able to control it, you could just blow it up and then get points for it, and then that general idea.
And the one you forgot to mention, the approach.
Oh yeah, so it being a distant approach, not only was it the LSO that was sort of toning down the dreads, but then the approach type was causing them to come on much later in the game than the normal, or distant approach, sorry.
It kept my battleship from coming in until turn 3.
Yeah, and the battleship, so.
Yeah.
I must say it was lovely. My dread came on just at the right point. Made a spike on the battle cruiser with his admiral in. I could head straight at it and fire the triad of burn through lasers. And suddenly there were no more Perth in my way. And then he could continue just going straight, take out the back station.
Well, one of the things that always gets asked every time there's a tournament, someone inevitably goes, "Hey, can we see the winning list?" But since we have first and second place here, do you guys want to talk about your list real quick? Just kind of go over what you had?
No. Not sure. My strategy was I didn't have a Dreadnought, I tried to go something with anti, so I actually had 2 Perths, Avalon Perths, with the burn through 4 lasers on them. Overall, the tournament didn't perform well because Dreadnoughts been killing them. Patrik. 4 Kievs, just to hunt down strike cruisers. That was their ultimate goal. I think there was 6 strike carriers split up between the Kievs to make them 2 separate groups so they could function separately. So the Kievs can roam free and not have to be stuck all together. 1 Seattle just to give a little bit of air support to help defend against the Washingtons and all those. Didn't do too much. And
it's hard to fight Launch 15.
It is.
It is a little hard to fight Launch 15 with fighters.
And due to meta change and all the destroyers coming out, I was forced to take a San Francisco.
Yeah, you mentioned a couple of times that really seemed to bother you in the soul level.
I don't like them, but destroyers now, I have to fight Jesse all the time. He brings 6 destroyers that just pop, kill all my strike.
I see that.
So I had to put a San Francisco in to deal with that.
Sorry, but destroyers, the Jasons are good.
They are. They're a solid ship.
So then, based on these 3 custom scenarios, what was your thought process behind that list? Did you just build a list you thought would perform well in general, or did you build that around the scenarios that since you saw them ahead of time?
This list was built around general. When your packet came out, I didn't really change my list around to deal with it. I think it hurt me in round 2 because I didn't see that it was only critical location. I couldn't capture the ground didn't cost points. I think if I would have seen that, I might have modified it a little bit, but I didn't catch it. I'm also a little biased because, Patrik.
That and your list, you've been evolving since the Heptacon.
Multiple.
For this past year, and so this is its current evolution.
Currently. I might get a Dreadnought now.
Which will probably replace the Avalons.
Yeah.
What about you, Patrik? My reasoning behind my list is, of course, first of all, I always switch between factions between tournaments.
You do?
And this time it was time for the Scourge to take a peek out. And my idea here was that I wanted to bring something that would be more of a brawler list with more firepower and try to prove to myself that it's possible to win without just drop spamming. And in this case I only had 1 Chimera and 4 Gargoyles. That's where was all my drop. I had a Nosferatu, a Basilisk, a Hydra and 4 Jinn as my firepower base. Given that, I think the list performed well. did miss a little bit of the drop. And I think that you have to make such hard decisions when you're fitting a Dread into the 12-50 point list that you will need to be light on something. And in my case it was drop. But I managed to work around it, and I had really fun just blowing things up left and right.
Well, you gave a really nice segue into one of the community questions. We were asked in the group, with Dreadnoughts out, is it time to move the meta from 1250 to 1500?
I can for sure say that moving into the next year, the tournaments at all of our events are going to switch to 1500 points. So,
sorry, we were getting offered sandwiches.
The reason behind it is
Appreciate it.
the reason behind it is not only the Dreadnoughts, but also because we're trying to change these scenarios away from drop spam, or at least limiting it. It does give people a want to bring in the cool, big, heavy stuff more so than they did before, because they don't have to just take all. I mean, how many people would bring a third of their list and just drop?
Right.
See it every tournament. So we had to break that up. So now it gives people options. But then when you start getting to the big ships, you kind of get stuck between the last 100-point range where you're like, well, I can bring a couple of BS ships in there, or if I had just that many more, I could bring this another cool ship in or whatever like that.
Well, I think Jesse and I were talking at the end of our game about because I brought a battleship, and I didn't have a problem bringing battleships when they first came out. I like them. I like a big ship, but those Dreadnoughts are twice the cost of a battleship. I mean, it is more than a 30-year list at 1250 to bring any of the Dreadnoughts.
Right.
And it's really hard, at least I think so, to sacrifice as much as you sacrifice, because your list becomes, I think this was your term, Patrik, way less forgiving.
Yeah.
Like, every mistake you make with that Dreadnought when that's the corner of your list is magnified because you don't have that stuff there to back it up.
And during beta testing, we found out that if you really hone in on that Dread, like if you really just socked it right to it and took it out, I mean, they're done for the turn. I mean, the game really.
Yeah.
And if you can get it killed within like 3 turns, then you really get the advantage on that.
I mean, it's a job to kill it.
Right, exactly, yeah. And
as it should be.
yeah, it should absolutely be killable, and they are all killable if you really focus on them. This is where, it's another thing that's starting to change things up now is when you're planning out a tournament, so now you're planning a tournament based around the list you want, the list of scenarios need you to have, and also more so what your opponent's going to take, because that Dread is now making people think, do I really need to put in certain ships to help get rid of those? So that's a whole other list building perspective.
Well, since we're kind of talking about the community request, another one that came up was, and we started talking about this before we started recording the show, nuking. Anyone have a nuke this game or this tournament?
Nope.
I mean, you
Unless-
crashed ships like
I was gonna
nukes,
say,
but
unless you counted that center cluster.
so I mean, the question that was asked, I believe Michelle posted this, was should nuking go from you're nuking a sector to you're nuking a cluster? And your response initially had been,
Well, that's going to be way too overpowered. And the other end of that is if you're not removing the restriction, you're still not going to see the action. Because people don't do it now because it's too hard to be in that perfect scenario where you want to nuke something and you are capable of nuking something.
Yeah, the problem that you have is that when you're in a position to nuke something, then you're probably already claiming points there because you're dominating that.
Right, and at that point you're just taking points away from yourself by doing it. So one of the solutions that we are kind of toying with behind the scenes here is potentially letting the torpedoes also nuke sectors. So we'll get rid of the nuke rule in theory, remove the restrictions on it, because then the restriction at that point then would be the amount of torpedoes you can send at something.
That would make torpedoes more viable to take as well.
Right, so we have other ideas on how to change torpedoes. That will obviously be a huge change that needs to happen along with the way these scenarios are being written. But yeah, But as it stands right now, nobody does nukes. They're a pointless part of the game at this point.
And at the point, the Romulus is really a destroyer of your sectors.
Yeah.
4 torpedoes and those big guns.
Well, while we're here in the community request, the last one, someone wanted to hear what our thoughts were on monitors. And I asked you publicly, I asked you privately. You have no idea, no one said anything about it. If Dave's got something, he's kept it inside his head.
Right, so there's no design out for them yet, there's no rules out for them yet. I haven't even spoken with Dave what he even wants them to be yet. So at the moment, it's all purely speculation, even on my part.
Do we want to spend time here at 11 o'clock at night speculating on what we think monitors are? I mean...
No, I think we can save that one for the next episode if we want to start poking at it.
Why don't we save that as a legitimate question to ask Dave and see...
Yeah.
Spoiler. That was an accidental spoiler. Well, I think we've talked fleet pretty well. Let's kind of slip into what's new and hobby sections here. So you managed to get out the list of units for version 2. So we can do a version 2 drop zone tournament tomorrow.
Yep, so I've been
Rasmus
working
and I
on
appreciate Tiamats.
I've been working on these units for a little while now, and this was kind of going to be the last chance to really give them a good testing. So I've been working through them, and so everybody will give them a chance to go through all their all the kinks and everything this weekend. So that way, when we get the next update out, you know, we don't have some of the real minor and silly mistakes like we did with the initial launch, like was it Spirit Gate?
Had 7 DP.
Yeah, so yeah, stuff like that. Obviously, things that we need to catch and things like that.
So is it safe to refer to these as officially unofficial rules?
Yeah, so currently in experimental form until they hit the website as usual. Once they're on there, then there'll be official beta units at the moment. Contributions to that, like you guys were mentioning, is the Tiamat, which is the
Aurelia Felix
standard model. So we definitely want most, if not all, of the famous commander models to be playable as standard units as well. So we're converting those into second edition as well.
And you Resistance Tuttle Rats now have Bizarro.
The Pizarro, yeah. So that's the Krell. It's now a heavy choice.
Does the heavy choice have the missiles or the chain guns? Or does it get both?
It only gets the chain guns.
Okay.
The missiles for the famous commander. So basically, it's just a Typhoon on the ground. That's what it is. But it's got light air Ezreal chain guns, so you're not getting the bonus of the extra range for reducing your power.
And Overlord Shivak, you're a big fan of the Eradicator.
I'm really eager to see how it goes tomorrow. I think it's fun. The model is just wonderful from the Jungle Devil. And I think it gives an interesting AA option to Scourge that you tie with an Overseer and have some really interesting firepower. But we'll see. I think maybe... Well, we'll see how it goes. I keep hearing everybody else's lists, and I keep going, oh, I'm going to be on the table for 2 turns with that.
Right. It's going to be a target. It's going to be the Scourge, what's the big gun ship from Scourge? I mean, UCM.
Phoenix?
No, not the Phoenix. The
Eagle?
what? Eagle, yeah. So the poor Eagle, it's such an amazing unit, but everybody hates it so much that it never lives. So the Eradicator is going to be that version of Stray.
Jesse, are you bringing a Tiamat tomorrow?
No, I am not.
For shame. Are you bringing any new units tomorrow?
Actually, no, I'm not.
We're done talking to you.
I couldn't justify the points with it, and when that came out, I was still busy painting some of my fleet models, so it was more of, what do I paint?
Rob, you bring anything from the new list?
Yeah, I dug my tilt rotor out and got that painted up in time.
I think we're going to see a lot of those tilt rotors tomorrow. There's 3 of you playing Resistance, right?
Yeah, if I get on the table tomorrow, as long as nobody doesn't show up. I'm running 2, actually.
Patrik, what did you bring? You brought a Frost Drake, I know.
Yeah, it's a list with Frost Drake, Fire Drake.
Frost Drake, for those of you who don't know, is Kinslayer's standard unit choice.
Yeah, it'd be a command choice as well.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's a command choice Fire Drake with a gravity cannon, basically.
Yep. And so I have the Frost Drake, the Fire Drake, 4 Firebirds, and I also painted up 2 War Spears, so I will finally get to use the Shantari Fast Mover. Haven't used that before.
Not enough AA. Jordan, I know you've got Tilt Rotor in there. Did you bring a Pizarro?
I did. I, for a little bit, toyed with going with a Pharaoh list so I could have a Pizarro, a Tilt Rotor, a Thunderstorm, and a Skull Taker.
But you realized you wanted friends.
Yes.
I think you realized you couldn't fit it all in one list.
No, I could. It actually wasn't that hard. But I wanted... Berserkers are too swingy for me. Marine Force Recon are just too much better than the Berserkers.
The one Special Forces unit that's supposed to be a UCM unit that they still don't have access to.
That UCM unit that's better for the resistance than it is to the UCM.
Right. Don, I know you said you got Tilt Rotors. I saw your Pizarro. You're bringing him to...
Pizarro.
Yeah.
And I'm also bringing Bertha.
Oh, the big drill.
I am. So, thanks for forgetting it, by the way, Jordan.
Yeah, I'm totally sorry.
So I'll be using a standard drill on the table tomorrow, if you don't mind.
But
anyway, the Bertha is the Jesse Adams model, which is now becoming basically like a heavy drill. So it comes on the board exactly like the normal drill does, but it allows 3 squads to come out per turn instead of the usual 1.
So if they haven't read the version 2 rules, drills, of course, used to be reserve units, so you had to roll to get them on board.
Yep.
Sometimes turn 1, sometimes turn 6. In V2, that just means turn 2 they deploy, right?
Yeah, so they deploy as they did in the first edition, so you got to do the scatter and everything. So you're required to use them between turns 2 and 4. So turns 2, 3, or 4, they have to be on the table to utilize them. Otherwise, they work pretty much exactly the same as the first edition. Become a table edge and all that kind of stuff. Currently, keeping them as you can't shoot the turn you deploy. But given the drop and shoot rules for second edition, that may change if they find that if the drills don't get used because you still have to wait an additional turn to basically use units coming out of them, then obviously you got to change that.
Of course, you can use units coming out of them on the backboard.
I mean, I can understand it being a little game-breaking drop and shoot on turn 2 with it, backboard.
I think the wording is that it's a table edge and not a transport. So you don't, technically the way the rules state, you don't get a penalty for shooting when coming on from the back. So it just might need a tweak and see how that goes.
But if it's a table edge, that's the weird thing. Like in a normal circumstance, even if you drive a unit on, you can still fire when you drive it on because it hasn't deployed.
Yeah, but we'll see how that goes. It's kind of one of those things where I didn't want to make it overpowered right away. I mean, we're already kind of making it more useful by guaranteeing its arrival when you want it to, as long as you stay within the restrictions of the turns. The other reason we did the restriction was that we didn't want people to take a 100-point drill plus whatever was inside of it and plop it on top of a focal point, turn 6, and then just contribute 100+ points nowhere. So we had to kind of restrict it in that sense.
So Rasmus, I know you're bringing a Tiamat.
Tiamat, 3 Nords, 7 Phobos, and a couple of Angelos with some infantry.
Yeah. Rasmus loaded a Nord with 4 Angelos with what? Valkyries and Sirens?
Valkyries and Sirens, yeah.
I'm bringing a Tiamat as well. I brought Mention A2s though for the first time.
Yeah, I left them at home and put in the Angelos instead.
Yeah, I've got 1 or 2 Mentions. I brought a long reach team. I've sworn off long reach teams for a long time because they don't have strafe. I'm glaring at Don.
Hey, Dave said no. Don't look
Yeah,
It was more
we'll have
colorful
words
than
about that.
if I remember correctly.
Yeah, the way you tell the story, there might have been an expletive before now. Did we already talk about your list?
Yes, we did.
We did.
Yeah, but it looks like so far nobody. I mean, the Tiamat. I mean, all the new stuff is going to be on the table tomorrow for the most part. Except for Jesse didn't bring nothing in.
We don't have a UCM play tomorrow, though, do we? We're gonna have every faction be. Damn it! I should have brought UCM.
No UCM. Unfortunately, the cool new one for them, which is the Super Phoenix. UCM card still sucks, so they can't really take advantage of that. So basically, it has a command range of 40 inches. So it can use its cards anywhere on the table, but because the cards still aren't very good, it's not really a huge benefit to them. But we'll see how much of a benefit the lower tank costs and the cheaper and faster Albatross comes into play for UCM.
So, hobby side, Don, you have painted and built a ton of barricades for version 2's tournament tomorrow.
Yeah, I wanted to use barricades in these scenarios here, and I didn't have any, so I had to build a bunch.
So, a really interesting question came up when you were running your Rumble Slam demo earlier, was that the mission in the tournament pack where the objective is surrounded by barricades, is that just considered out in the open, and if you go in there, you're going to pick it up?
Yes. So the way the barricades are designed to work for that scenario is vehicles should not be able to get close enough to just pick it up because of the barricade situation around it. Obviously, barricades can be blown up, so if you blow it up before you get to it, then you can go in there and snag it. I will be making those hardened to make that much harder, or at least the one in the open anyways.
Nah, I brought 2 in, it's cool.
I brought a single thunderstorm, so it's fine.
So, but Scourge might get us, well, no, because you still, to get there, turn 1 with even a fast, a light drop ship, you're still going to move past your ability to drop your units inside of it, infantry units inside of it. So,
what if I have fast roping 6 with a set of sirens?
I guess we'll see. That's the.
An interesting design request came up when we were talking about the barricades, though. Resistance really needs the Killdozer, a Killdozer model.
Killdozer?
For anybody who's listening to this, go look on YouTube for the Killdozer.
I did. I felt horrible not knowing about the Killdozer. My life was changed today.
Well, we still have a semi-truck and the car pack that doesn't have a unit yet, so we could put a big old plow on the front of that thing.
When's the semi-model going to become a resistance command unit?
We'll see.
Well, did you guys see that Optimus Prime drop zone model that the one guy was working on?
That was fun.
Oddly enough, the first thing that comes to my mind is Mask. It was a widely watched TV show at the time, but I always think of the command station.
People didn't think you were old, they do now.
It was 80s, yeah.
I have a Optimus Prime G2 version sitting at home.
Let's see, what else hobby? Jordan, you're hobbying a house.
Yep.
Did you get your hobby station set up yet?
Nope. Busy work week last week. I got to borrow a truck. I have plans in the work to pretty kick-ass paint station once it's all said and done.
You're going to have to share photos on the page.
I will. It should end up being, I got 12 foot of counter, and then I'm going to have pegboard behind the counter across the whole way, so I'll be able to hang a lot of stuff, just hang blisters on the wall. Like, oh, that's what I'm painting next.
Your paint area is going to look like a store. All I've been painting is Infinity Terrain. I got my Black Sheep Industries table in. My, it's not the, I can't remember what one it is. It's the Red Veil version they did. Crimson something. So, holy crap, we might come in on time or under time this time around. We're into the final thoughts section. This is really the last event that I know of for a while, isn't it?
On the U.S. side, it's going to be the last one until the Las Vegas Open. So that's going to be the first weekend of February. And then Adepticon, usual end of March, and then so on and so forth.
GordoCon, probably in March.
Yeah.
Down in Cincinnati.
Actually, CincinnatiCon.
Oh,
CincyCon.
CincyCon.
When's that usually?
That's usually a couple weeks before
Beginning of
Adepticon.
March, I think is when that is.
Oh,
I know there will be a drop zone tournament by one of the used to be Talons from Indianapolis. I think it's still running that. And then Aaron, I believe, was looking at running a fleet tournament at Cincinnati next year. So.
Want to carpool, Don?
Carpool.
To Cincinnati?
It's not going to be by you.
Yeah, you will.
No, something in Chelsea now. Further west than I used to be.
What? How are you gonna get south? 75?
23.
23 literally runs right through my town.
No, all right, well then.
When it comes over, you still have to meet him in the Finley thing.
Okay, I guess I can pick you up.
You don't want to ride together? Just tell me. Jeez. Okay. So exciting news that we kind of slipped already is that our next episode in November we're going to be talking with Dave.
Yep, so I've convinced Dave to be a semi-regular part of this podcast. Since it's a not official podcast. Since actual company men are going to be speaking on this from time to time, but
We're officially unofficial?
Officially unofficial. So yeah, we're getting Dave in this time, and not really sure what we're going to cover just yet with him. But with Carnivale coming out to retail next month, I think our December episode, I'd like to get, if we can, Lewis on, who was basically spearheaded the redoing of that game, so we can get that in the spotlight.
What I would like to do is I will try to get a pinned post in the Command Value 1 Facebook group for questions for Dave. I think we'll run that for a couple of weeks, get a list of questions together and submit it to him and see if so he can be prepared for those questions.
Yep.
And tell us what he wants to tell us or can tell us.
Keep in mind that if you ask a question, it might not get answered because obviously some questions aren't answerable at the moment. So
Because sometimes there are stupid questions.
Like, why do long reach not have strength?
That's not a stupid question. That's the only question. Thank you!
Like, where did White Sphere come from? Did it come from a snowball?
Is he aware that Josh is holding the Scourge Fluff hostage?
no, unfortunately, Dave kind of hides in his office. So we'll give him some public outreach for that this episode.
Josh needs to know about Scourge body shaming.
It's a real issue as far as I'm concerned.
I personally think hunters are slim and sexy.
They are,
But I have to imagine that the eviscerators get some cross looks.
And, you know, the world needs invader chassis, hosts, people melded in there, however that works.
Well, does anyone have any other final thoughts?
No, I don't think so.
All right. Shameless plug section. Please subscribe. Please write reviews and please share so you can get the word of the podcast out there. Reviews and likes help people see that the podcast is enjoyed and that it's not just a couple of random people talking BS, even though it might actually be.
Why don't you tell them where they can get a hold of the videos and or pictures that have been taken today during the tournament?
On my phone.
Well, I mean, you're hosting site and Josh is hosting.
So Josh has Scald as a face, or his YouTube channel is Scald.
Scald, yeah. I put that together for just grabbing the different battle reports that we could, well, not battle reports, just captures of the game. I'm not editing them or anything, so if you guys want to see what the games look like.
This time around it was Patrik
You
TV.
just you
Yeah, it
merely
was Patrik TV.
you merely do unedited live streams, like a 2-hour video, straight up recording of the game.
Yes.
Yeah, and he's done a couple of live streams where some of us popped in and BS'd into the chat, and today he live streamed all 3 games. Are you doing it tomorrow?
For Drop Zone, yeah.
Yeah. I
Or
did
Patrik TV.
my standard battle reports, which are intern recaps. I did all 3 of my games today as well, which will go up on the Gamer Direct channel. There'll be links in the Command Value 1 page for both of these. There's also the Command Value 1 page, so if you haven't become a member yet, please pop over there and join in. We'll spam once or twice in the Drop Zone and Dropfleet communities just to share that the episode exists, but I don't like to spam this over there a lot. Other than that, Rasmus? Don?
What?
Gordo?
Goodbye.
Patrick?
Night.
Rob?
This was fun.
Glad you enjoyed it. Jesse?
Traffic sucks.
Josh?
Good night, everybody.
All right. Hey, thanks for joining us, and have a good night, folks.